And he remembered where to go. Jeff Duncan has returned from Kentucky. Does not have a fancy hat. Does not have mud all over his shoes from a sloppy track. Does not have very many winnings either. I still have my ticket that I need to frame in my wallet right here, even though you've said not to frame it to cash it.
At least I have my shirt. I mean, I thought I was going to lose my shirt after the disaster.
Like you were going to be shirtless, or you were just it was going to have to be thrown away.
No, it was more to do with losing on the Derby.
You're going to have to pay in your shirt, the shirt off your back.
It was
trying
not
to get
a good
home.
day. But in any way, I mean, it was brutal rain. We talked about that, so it's good to be back in this nice climate. What's what I'm for?
I don't know. It's a pretty day.
No, it's hot as you know.
Oh well, it's certainly hot. I mean, we're hitting. It'll be 90 till October now. No more cold fronts. It's over.
The spring is over, and I'm off to France on Thursday, where I'm sure it's going to be.
He's off to France on Thursday. That's right. He is here today, here tomorrow, gone by Thursday, and Jeff will be taking another European vacation. Is this the third time you've been to Europe in the last 7 months?
Yes.
8 months?
Yes, that's true. I didn't think about
that. I have.
Oh, yes, I bet you have.
I have.
As well you should have. No, I mean, this was something that I planned back in the spring and looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Whenever I go to France, it always reminds me of New Orleans. You can see the influence of the culture and the architecture on our city. And oftentimes when you're over there, you're like, now I know why it's this way in New Orleans, because of the French influence.
So they had more than one French Quarter in France, I'm guessing.
Yes.
More than one?
Yeah.
Since there's only one here in the United States.
The European layout of cities, the narrow streets, all the things when you first moved to New Orleans, you're scratching your head because it's so different, and you're frustrated. The Louisiana lefts, the no turning lanes, all those kind of things that we have here that the rest of America doesn't have. You realize it's because of the European influence, the narrow streets, the old streets, the lack of turning lanes because we have neutral grounds, things like that all hit home when you're in Europe.
Well, Jeff will at least be here tomorrow, and he will be here long enough today. Man, just ironic, perfect timing that you're back for our lunch draft winner, Ed Biggs. We will be heading to Deanie's in Bucktown after the show. Look, we'll see what happens at this luncheon. If Ed walks away crying, laughing, never acknowledging our existence, never wants to talk sports again because we've just ruined the experience for him. The paparazzi is following Trombone Shorty's opening act. The Clydicos, the Yodel Kid and the Clydicos. You missed the Yodel Kid on Friday. Now he's got a lead singer. Clyde's just kind of like, he's like Edge in U2. The 11-year-old Yodel Kid is now the lead singer.
I like the 3-day beard. I like that.
Yeah, I'm going to shave eventually.
No, I like that look. I think you should seriously go with it.
Too many grays. I don't know if do the chicks dig the grays?
Yes.
Very distinctive.
Are you kidding me? Yes.
Okay.
Ever since I've shaved my head, not by my choice, of course, the grays have been more prominent, and people look at me more as I don't know, more
dashing, debonair, something close to that.
Sophisticated, I would say is the
Boy,
word.
if they only knew, right?
I know. All I know is I need to go for what is it, Just for Men, with Clyde Frazier and Keith Hernandez sitting on the dresser in your bedroom.
Yes.
And the poor gentleman is not getting down with his lady friend until he dyes his hair. And then they're commentating, no play for Mr. Gray. That was not a paid sponsorship by Just for Men.
No.
Just now, just saying.
However, Nugenics, Big Hurt. I know you'll love that commercial.
That's right. The ladies love Nugenics too, according to the Big Hurt Frank Thomas. Anyway, we are totally sidetracked here. But got a great show lined up, of course. Game 5 of the Western Conference semifinals. Do or die time for the Pelicans, down 3-1. 9:30 tip tonight against the Warriors. You can listen to that game on our sister station, 99.5 FM WRNO. We will catch up with our own Will Guillory, who is out in Oakland. Will Guillory and our own Chris Dave are out there covering what could be the final game of, I would still say, a very successful Pelican season if it ends tonight. If it doesn't end tonight, it's an even bigger success because you'd only potentially lose 4-2 to the Warriors. But look, they've got they know it's make or break time. We'll talk with Will about that. And in the least stunning Saints news of the offseason, the Saints released Coby Fleener yesterday, and that will be a June 1st designation, meaning they'll be able to recoup some salary cap space on June 2nd. So we will talk about that. And a topic I know we want to talk about on this show, and you've seen the free agent swings and misses. I want to talk about and basically rank the free agent swings and misses over the last few years, because I do feel like Coby Fleener is probably the last one we'll see in a little while. It's basically almost like their last mistake, because we've seen draft picks and recent free agent acquisitions since Fleener, and I guess I better put out the disclaimer. Are we counting Nick Fairley as a miss? Probably so. But the circumstances weren't just because the player just didn't pan out on the field. The medical problems, which you could argue that's something the Saints should have known about. But we've seen the Saints move on from these mistakes and become much better in player procurement, whether it's the draft or free agency.
Well, I think once they signed Ben Watson, the writing was on the wall, right? I mean, he's coming in to start. They paid, $90,000 in guaranteed money for a undrafted rookie tight end. That was another indication that they needed depth at that position. So the writing was on the wall. They must have known something medically, or had an inkling that he was not going to pass his physical or whatever they did, I assume, to move on from him. And that was a mistake. Like we've talked about it a bunch of times. It was kind of a knee-jerk reaction out of desperation when they lost Ben Watson to run out and sign Fleener. The question I have is why they paid him so much at the time. It seemed like a lot to me. I don't know. It seemed like they overpaid for him, and I can't imagine there was too much competition for him. But, who knows at the time.
Absolutely. All right, we'll talk about that a lot in the 11 o'clock hour. We'll welcome your phone calls. 504-260-1280 is the number to get involved. But let's stick with Pelicans Warriors. Of course, Jeff, you've been watching the games. We've all been watching the games. And I'm wondering, after really just taking basically almost a TKO punch out in Game 4, how this Pelicans team is going to rebound in Game 5, having to go all the way across to Oakland with many figuring that this is going to be the end. I think it's mentally, how do they get themselves ready for this game? Because 3-1, defending champs, and you just got waxed by the Warriors. I think that's the biggest question mark for the Pelicans, fighting for their playoff lives in Game 5 tonight.
Yeah, how are they going to respond? I mean, we saw last night Toronto didn't respond at all to that body blow they took by LeBron James. I mean, they pretty much laid down. Will the Pelicans show some fight? I think they will. They've kind of done that all year. I'll be surprised if they lay down, but it might just be a case of the Warriors are better. I mean, that's what it looked to me like on Sunday. When they flex their muscles, they are, as you said the other day, probably the best team in the league. I mean, that's what everybody thought when the season began. They've had some ups and downs with injuries, but when they're at full force, as they were on Sunday, and locked in like they were, they're very difficult out and probably the favorite to win the whole thing.
I'm just wondering if there's anything the Pelicans can really even do, because we've seen the Pelicans play their best, and I think maybe a little bit when the Pelicans got on a roll, maybe, and this happens in a playoff series, the Warriors were up 2-0. They kind of just took a night off, basically, and the Pelicans got hot, and they said, all right, this is going to be the Pelicans' day. But when you can have the ability to respond, and you're used to playoff basketball, which we know the Pelicans aren't, you have the ability to turn it on if you're the Warriors. Not every team can do that.
Right.
And like you were saying with, say, LeBron James, playoff time, it certainly seems like they were able to turn it on, as opposed to Toronto. They don't have that gear. They haven't been to the mountaintop and been able to do that. So, look, it's something that I'm curious to see. All right, let's hit the phone lines real quick. 504-260-1280 is the number to get involved. Let's head uptown. Let's talk with Ed. Hey, Ed. Thanks for calling Dunc and Holder. What's up, Ed? Well, I said it yesterday. I said it's over tonight, too, so you can count me into that, too. So that's my prediction, and that's what I'm assuming. So, I mean, what do you want me to do? Well, we're under the assumption that that's going to be happening. I can't speak for him, but I can speak for what I said yesterday. I said the series is over tonight. It's over. So I'm assuming it's Rockets, Warriors too. So I mean, that's look. I think people who have watched the series, both series, are just going to assume that, and I assume we're going to be right. So Ed, appreciate the phone call. All right, let's hit the other phone line. Who we got, Dave? Let's go to Gretna. Talk with Sam. Hey, Sam. Thanks for calling Dunc and Holder. What you got?
Yes.
Love it. Mm-hmm.
All right, Sam. Well, hey, yeah, I could tell. Yeah, I could tell you Jeff is happy about that too because he yawns every time we talk mini camp or OTAs. He literally gives me the yawn, literally. There you go. Well, that's good. Well, all right. Hey, look, I can appreciate that outlook. Good. I'm glad people actually have that outlook. Sam, appreciate the phone call.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
I'm just not of that side of the coin. I mean, I'm just. What do you want me to do? They could surprise me tonight and win. Okay, that's fine. But I still think the Warriors are the better team. I mean, they're gonna look. It's just what it is. The top four teams in the NBA are who they are. They're
Yes.
Cleveland, they're Boston, they're Houston, they're Golden State, and I would openly and highly applaud the Pelicans if they were able to go in and win tonight. I think that would be huge, and it would be something that you could look back on this season and say, wow, even when things were looking grim, they put up a fight, won another game. I don't think they're going to win the series. I mean, I personally, I still don't think they're going to win tonight.
Look,
but I do appreciate Sam's outlook, and that's good. I hope Pelicans fans have that outlook, and Pelicans, if they have that and can pull it off, I'd say more power to you, and I'd have no problem saying I was wrong about tonight.
the one win they got was in the regular season down the stretch, but and I realize that's the glass half full look at that, but I think they've lost like 12 or 13 out there, or something crazy. That's a one win they've gotten in the last 2-3 years. So yeah, you can look at that one win, but let's look at the bigger, larger body of work, and that is this is a place historically they've lost.
And let's look at that game, and we're going to break right here on the show. Let's look at that game that they actually won. There was no Steph Curry. The Warriors were set in the playoffs. It's not like they win or loss. Doesn't matter. They weren't going anywhere. They were going to be the number 2 seed regardless. So you could put it on cruise control and then crank it up when you need to.
Yeah, and I mean, and we'll get into this with Will, but the one thing that you can change from Game 4 to Game 5 tonight is defense. Your defense is all about effort. If you go out there tonight knowing full well that you have to get stops, quality stops, and really, really be in everybody's space tonight, I think you give yourself a better shot than most other people would give you.
Yes, because there was certainly a lack of defense early, and you could see that the effort and energy wasn't there in Game 4. All right, let's take a break right here on the show. Don't forget, in about 10 minutes, we'll go to Oakland, talk with Will Guillory. Pelicans Warriors tonight, Game 5. So come on back. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app. Dunc and Holder.
Is Jennifer working today? Do you know?
She should be.
Well,
I thought she was off yesterday, and then she's back on today.
I don't know, because I'm sure she's going to work late tonight.
I know.
Editing is needed today, locked in for Pelicans late tonight. So,
That sounds like she's off.
well, it sounds like she could be open to doing it. Well, somebody gave you a check. Oh, it was her.
It was her? Okay. All right, I just wanted to get that off my plate because
Yep.
it needed to get up quicker. So I was trying to send it before I left. Freaking made a bad roster move in baseball.
my whole roster's a bad roster move.
Like, it was one of those things where there was this guy for the Marlins who started, been pitching well, you know, really been almost unhittable. I'm like, I need one more starter. So, but I looked at his history, and he's not like some dazzling prospect or anything, but he'd been pitching really well. So I picked him up in the first game. You know,
Blown up.
just got blown up. And you get one of those games like that, it just kills you.
I've had too many of them, and it's killed me. That's why I'm bottom of the league in pitching.
Yeah, it just kills you.
I've had like 3 or 4, and I can't catch back up.
Where are you at?
Oh, I'm like 8th place.
Really? You were up in the...
Well, it's like I
yeah.
had a couple of bad pitching performances, and blows me up. Like, here's the thing: it's
Blows
like
me up.
I'm 6 spots from 3rd, so I could once. I'm trying to be patient.
Right. Yeah, that was disastrous. Freaking, I may have to, like, I give him one more shot, and if he gets lit up, I'm dumping him. I'm gonna be on one of those merry-go-rounds where you're trying to fill one spot, use all your SRMs on one spot.
Oh, I probably only have 3 left. So much so that I dumped the pitcher and just put Bumgarner. Right. So much so where I put Bumgarner in. He's in my starting lineup. I'm leaving him there, not to burn an SRM.
Right.
So I'll just dump the guy and put him in.
Yeah, just to preserve that. That's smart.
And it's just like a bad run. Like Bryce Harper's batting like 240. He's had all these numbers, but he's not getting anything to hit because half their lineup's dead, and he's walking at like a record pace. Like
Who?
Bryce Harper. Like he's
Yeah, they're pitching around him.
yeah. When they batting him lead off on purpose to try to avoid that, but still, it's. And then I got like Matt Carpenter's batting like 170. It's just like, yeah.
Who?
Matt Carpenter.
What's that on base? Like a 300 hitter.
Right.
Right.
Punk. At 158. By 504-260-1280 is the number to get involved. Don't forget, in a couple minutes, we'll head up to Oakland, talk with Will Guillory. Pelicans Warriors tonight, 9:30 tip. Of course, you can listen to that on our sister station, 99.5 FM WRNO. And you look at the matchups, and Clyde and I were talking about this yesterday, and I don't see just how one lineup change for the Warriors was this major difference maker. Putting Iguodala in the starting lineup, and all of a sudden, the Pelicans didn't know what to do, and they crumbled. I just thought it was one of those games in Game 4 where you knew the Warriors were going to come out salty, and the Pelicans had no answer for it. And so now, I'm just assuming you walk into Game 5, the Warriors are going to come out basically knowing that they win this and it's over and it's on their home floor. And they've had, outside of the last time they played in the regular season, they've still had success against the Pelicans, even when the Pelicans gave them their best shot at Oracle. And so I'm curious to see what the Pelicans can do. And I think Clyde's right. I think if they bring energy on defense, they could at least make a game of it. Because, Jeff, as you saw, and we all saw Game 4, they came out, smacked them in the mouth, and they never recovered at all.
Well, here's a sobering statistic to be Debbie Downer, as I'm prone to do.
Welcome back, Jeff.
The Warriors have won 14 consecutive home playoff games, the longest home winning streak in the playoffs in franchise history. The Chicago Bulls won 15 in a row back in 90 to 91. So tonight, they have a chance to equal the longest home playoff winning streak in NBA history. So, I mean, they're up against it. Let's face it.
There's no question about that. And you can't have Nico Mirotic go cold. You can't have Rondo turning the ball over. And it's something that, man, you watch these games, and when you have, say, one or two players on the floor where they don't even guard you, say Rondo, they just leave him open. Solomon Hill, they just leave him open. It's like they're playing without 4-on-5, because I feel like the Warriors at least feel like they could put 5 players on the floor and feel like they're capable of scoring. And when you see Rondo go 2 of 11, you're in trouble. You know, it's something that the Pelicans are dealing with, while the Warriors, they feel confident in all their players.
The Warriors have won 27 of the last 30 games against the Pelicans, including 14 of the last 15 at Oracle Arena. So that one win they had is the only one in the last 15.
Well, Jeff, I think glass half full fan is saying, so you're saying there's a chance.
Exactly.
Bring out Lord Christmas in here.
You got to look for some silver lining in the series, but you know, those numbers are staggering. It's been a matchup that's been difficult for everybody, but particularly the Pelicans, because of the way they play. It's almost like they play the exact same style, but they don't have as good of players. And so how do you reconcile
Well, that's something I'm sure they're going to have to visit in the offseason, because now that they feel like they are capable of making a run in the playoffs, you've got to figure out how to beat Houston. You got to figure out how to beat New Orleans, and I'm sure that's things that Dell Demps and Alvin Gentry, they're going to be discussing this offseason, and something I know we're going to be discussing on the show. Basically, once the season's over, I guarantee you, starting tomorrow, we're going to be starting to talk, how do you improve to not just be that one series win and be out by the top 2 teams in the West.
Right, that's not the goal. The goal isn't to make the playoffs or to win one series. The goal is to win a title when you have a player like Anthony Davis. And look, I think the question now, the biggest question, if this goes into it all season, is what do they do with Demarcus Cousins? We've talked about it before.
Ad nauseum.
Cousins would give them at least a matchup problem for the Warriors. So the crowd that thinks the Pelicans are better without Demarcus Cousins, they're just different. They're not better. What Cousins gives them is another way to play. When he's there, they become more versatile, because now they can play small the way they're doing right now without him, or they can use the 2 bigs, and that causes matchup problems for other teams. So having him on this team, there's a huge value to it, but it's not always the case. You know, there's some times we actually think they play better without him. but that doesn't mean you get rid of a talent like that. So I think that's the big decision: is not do they bring him back, at what price do they bring him back?
All right, let's take a break right here on the show. When we get back, we will head up to Oakland, talk with our own Will Guillory, NOLA.com, the Times-Picayune. He's up there. Our own Chris Dave is up there covering Game 5 tonight. So all kinds of coverage you can check out on NOLA.com leading up to, during, and after the game. And, of course, they'll certainly be diving into, if tonight's the final game, taking a deep dive into what the Pelicans do to improve going into next season. So, but Will Guillory coming up next. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app. Dunc and Holder. Playing tennis tonight, I'm sure it's gonna be roasty.
God, you will be. You need a
Well, I'm playing at
wristbands.
6:30, and so the sun's still gonna be out.
Yeah.
For like an hour.
You're gonna need those long, like tennis wristbands, those thick, long ones.
I need like the little wristband, the headband that
Headband
does
was-
nothing
yeah.
like McEnroe and Borg, just to keep the hair out of their face. But I'm sure I'll wear something.
I wonder why I still haven't gotten a full answer. I heard Peyton was in the park last night when I was running.
Mm-hmm.
Why he didn't come to the Derby, like stayed back at the horse farm. It ended up being the smartest move of all.
Yeah,
Brutal
maybe
day.
because he knew it was gonna storm.
I mean, all the women were there, like everybody was there. I don't know, it was kind of weird.
Skylene stay? Or
No,
she
she
go?
was there.
So she went to the Derby?
Yeah, she was there.
Maybe he was sick.
She looked great. She had an unbelievable outfit. Like,
She's
she really
not-
looked.
She's certainly not an unattractive woman.
No, but I mean, like her outfit was really
Yeah.
spectacular. I mean,
Yeah.
like she looked like a model or something. You could tell they all thought about their outfit for a long
Cool.
time. And Gail did the walkover and everything when she went over that mud and everything. I couldn't
Oof.
believe it.
I saw they put the big like poncho on her hat.
Yeah, she had that poncho over her hat. And then we're walking over to the, to the front side, and NBC's got their big booth set up, with all the announcers and everything. And Amos goes, as we're walking by, Amos is like, Greg, does NBC know that Gail's doing the walkover? I know they want to get that. And Greg's like, I don't know. I'm like, the one thing you think he'd be
One
doing.
thing you would think he would be doing.
He doesn't know. He's still caught up in just the whole experience. Nice. Amos is like, looks at me like,
Oh, so you walked over.
yeah, you go over the backside an hour before the race, and they call on the backside, horsemen, your Derby horses,
Yeah.
and they come out of the stall, and you walk over with the connections to the paddock, and all these people like cheering. It's really
Yeah.
cool. I'm convinced though somebody's gonna get kicked. There's owners and people out there. There's like 1 million people. These horses, they're huge.
At some point, yeah, one horse is
He's
gonna
gonna
like
get antsy and
scared.
rear up or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or people aren't paying attention.
Yeah.
Something bad's gonna happen on the walkover. I'm telling you.
Will must know Oakland backwards and forwards by now. Will Guillory, NOLA.com, the Times-Picayune. At least now you had like a traveling buddy. Chris Dave made the trip out there. I didn't know that. So you guys have been, hanging out, doing some reporting, going to A's games, Bash Brothers, the whole 9 yards. I'm
Steroids.
assuming. Steroids.
Sorry.
Jeez.
I heard Bash Brothers. Sorry. Allegedly, yes. Asterisks.
Right. I misremember the past, as Mark McGuire would say. Now, we'll appreciate you jumping on this show. And 3-1. Of course, we know it's a tall order against any team, much less the defending NBA champions. But for a second, let's rewind back to Game 4. And to me, just that initial burst coming out and really, basically, the Warriors put it to them early. The Pelicans kind of bounce back a little bit. Then quarter 3 comes and they just stomp on them and roll off. Or were you surprised to see kind of? To me, it looked almost like a lack of energy, or maybe they were just kind of shell shocked. What do you make of the Game 4 performance?
Will, that's the key question tonight. I mean, what do the Pelicans do with Kevin Durant? I mean, it seems like a matchup problem for everybody in the league, but in particular this team. Do you think they try Drew Holiday or a bunch of different run a bunch of different players at him?
Will Guillory, NOLA.com, the Times-Picayune, in Oakland for the Pelicans Warriors Game 5 tonight. Joining us right here on Dunc and Holder. And you look at the way that the Pelicans played in Game 4, and then you look at the way they played in Game 3. Do you feel like that Game 3 was the anomaly? Game 4 was an anomaly? What do you feel like the Pelicans are in this series? Because I feel like we've seen 4 games. 2 games looked like 1 and 4, and then 2 and 3. Look, the Pelicans played well, lost, and then they played well in Game 3 and really took it to Golden State.
Hey, well, obviously, not only over the course of the regular season, but over the course of the entirety of the playoffs. We've heard from Alvin Gentry and obviously the questions about, who does he think that Golden State's going to start, and, him saying that whatever he says, Steve Kerr is going to do the opposite. Do you think that there's any idea, or at least obviously with yesterday's off day, Alvin Gentry and the coaching staff had a lot of time to think about, the fact that it's a very good possibility that they're going to see Golden State's death lineup again in game 5 tonight. Do you think they tried to look at last game tape to see what they could maybe do differently, either defensively or maybe trying to limit some of Golden State's possession so that they don't run into the same problem that they run into on game 4?
Will, we were just talking before you came on about the absence of Demarcus Cousins. How do you think if his presence would alter this series? Do you think it would make a huge difference for the Pelicans' chances, or would this Hamptons 5 lineup cause all kinds of nightmarish matchup problems for the two bigs? I'm curious because I think it would add an element to the lineup that the Golden State would have to deal with, but maybe on the other end it might be a difficult matchup for the Pelicans defensively.
All right, Will, one more we'll let you run. How did the Pelicans win Game 5? Really simple answer, I'm sure. You probably need like 10 bullet points. All right, Will Guillory, NOLA.com, the Times-Picayune. Check out all of his coverage of Pelicans Warriors leading up to the game tonight, during the game, after the game, and whatever else happens after tonight's game. Will probably needs a rest, but hey, if the Pelicans keep winning, if they extend this series, I'm sure Will won't be too upset that he's still covering games. So, hey, Will, appreciate the time, appreciate the great work, hard work, and thanks for joining us. All right, appreciate it. That's Will Guillory, NOLA.com, and the Times-Picayune. Follow him at Will Guillory. All right, let's take a break right here on the show. 11 o'clock hour, we'll dive into some Saints chatter. Of course, the release of Coby Fleener. Talk about the history of recent Saints free agent flops. Which one's the worst?
Ever?
I'm saying, we'll have to put a cap on how far we go. Because this discussion could be wide-ranging if you said ever. It would be...
Fleener was bad. I don't think he's top 10 even.
Maybe.
I can't wait to hear this.
Ever.
Yeah.
But at least in the last, 6-7 years?
Well, we'll see. All right.
Yeah.
Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app. Dunc and Holder.
What you guys gonna get for lunch? What are you gonna eat?
I'll probably get the catfish platter, I imagine.
Little po' boy action?
I'm going to get... Yes. I'll take a hot pocket.
Grilled cheese.
I was about to say, my kid
grilled
want a grilled
cheese.
cheese.
I like grilled
Please.
cheese.
Shut up.
I like it.
Yes, maybe a cheeseburger.
I love a good grilled cheese.
11 pounds of crawfish. The goal is to eat enough to not have it, and yet not have it be too much to where I feel like I want to throw up playing tennis at 6:30.
Fair.
Can I make that happen? I don't know.
Padres Tyson Ross undone by homers against Nationals.
Guess who has Tyson Ross?
5 runs on 6 hits.
Me. Of course, he's
6
pitching well now. He's blown up. Thanks for reminding me, Jeff.
Just happened to notice that.
Just happened to check out your team and see if another one of your pitchers got blown up. That's why I'm the worst in ERA. I'm the worst in ratio. And yet I'm like atop the league in wins. And then since the Dodgers suck, Kenley Jansen sucked. And at some point, my patience will run out.
Huh.
And I will start trading heavily. Like last year, I might have had like half the league. Like at some point, I had Max Scherzer. At some point, I had Clayton Kershaw. Like I had like everyone.
Yeah, Clayton Kershaw's a monster. Oh, he's on the DL right now.
He's on the DL. Well, Dodgers aren't any good. He's like 1-4.
I know.
But his numbers aren't bad. But they just. I mean, their team. I mean, Corey Seager's out for the year. Justin Turner's hasn't played yet. I think it's kind of a hangover from getting so close in the World Series last year and losing. kid-friendly e-cigarette flavors. Nice. I want bubble gum. Just have snowball flavors. Wedding cake.
Tiger blood.
Oh, that's my wife's favorite.
Really?
Tiger's blood. Mine is a kid's flavor, Ben 10.
Nice.
Jeff, we come back. Rob Zombie's right in your face, man. Yes.
I like it.
I know you do.
I do. I really do.
I'm glad Torture Tuesday has grown on you.
I know. Well, I think our lineup of music is unparalleled in local sports talk radio.
Agreed.
There's no one can compare. I'm willing to go out on a limb there. That's all because of Dave.
Just because we don't play Chicago going into the top of the hour break all day, every day, like some stations. What I do?
It's almost.
What I do?
It's almost.
Now,
as
granted,
bad as,
there's
I
nothing
love
wrong with Chicago.
I
Love
personally,
Chicago.
I love Chicago.
Chicago's the best.
Well, we bring a little variety. A little bit of
You
variety.
know what's almost as bad as the Chicago bumper music is the Tiger Stadium LSU football game soundtrack. Whoever puts that together is out of the same.
Well, I feel
Okay,
like it's been a while.
Hold on.
It's been a while since I've actually been inside
Hold on.
Tiger Stadium.
Time out.
I don't go.
Jeff, are you talking pregame or are you talking during the game?
Yes, pregame.
Yes.
Yeah, that answers. Yeah, thank you, Larry. You're
During
like,
the game.
what?
During the game, they play like all this '70s music. It's rock. It's like
You're not
terrible.
down with that.
Okay, and then pregame.
Well, pregame is a little better, I guess.
Okay, so you don't like it in game.
I don't like any of it. I think it's terrible.
I don't. Well, I mean, specifically,
So
I was
what's
going to
the
say.
suggestion?
Yeah,
What do you got?
Because specifically,
Bring it modernize it a little bit.
it is. Well, I mean, if you listen to literally, let's see. I'm
Clyde
trying
is
to.
trouble.
Yeah,
He's
I'm trying to-
trouble. He's troubled here.
I'm not troubled. I'm trying to go through the Rolodex in my mind of the LSU football pregame timing sheet. So I believe after the Tiger Walk and after the guys get in the locker room, I think it's
You
about
should have this memorized.
75
Clyde.
minutes?
You've been
Yes.
up in LSU Tiger Stadium enough.
75 minutes before the clock hits zero. The guys come out, and when the guys come out, their playlist starts. So it's all nothing but new school hip hop, Future, Drake,
Jeff,
Maybe I
all
haven't
these
heard that.
guys.
Maybe I haven't heard that because I've never been
Yeah.
to pregame.
But that's their playlist. So it's all nothing but new stuff. It's all nothing but new hip hop and rap and those guys and they get to select it. And of course it's on the marketing guys to go and find all the edited songs and edited tracks because obviously laden with curse words. But once you get into the game, that's always been my thing specifically with, and you wouldn't believe how big of a problem that is between administration and then like teams because
So there's a tussle of the music.
right, because during the game, people are so invested in, well, what do the kids want to hear, but what do the fans want to hear, but how long should the kids be able to hear their own songs, the songs they want to hear, the songs they get hyped to? Well, this is our demographic of fans who are buying season tickets, and this is their music, and it's always been, everywhere I've been, every place that I worked, it was always one of the most insignificant battles that felt like a war because it was just who gets what and
Well, it's
who
not
deserves what.
insignificant. People like Jeff get depressed when they hear the same boring music.
Right, and so we changed it up and be like try to find ways to get it all in there, but yeah, it's one of those. It's just one of those never-ending things. But if you go there next year, I'm telling you, right when the guys come out of the field and everybody gets hyped, listen to the music.
Hope they're not playing that "We Ready."
No, they don't play that one.
That thing gets overplayed.
No. But
Who
there
sings
is,
that?
but there is a song. There is a song that's one of my favorites. It's an a cappella version and a little bit of a spin on "In the Air Tonight" by Phil Collins. It's a
So
fantastic.
the kids from Glee sing.
No. It's not.
Phil
No.
Collins?
No. It's a quartet of guys that they are like they make the sounds, like the beat, the thump of the beat. They sing the songs, and it starts with "Oh Lord," and then you kind of go with like
See, there's
bum, bum,
Chronicles
bum,
coming
bum,
out to
bum,
play.
bum, bum, "Oh Lord," and then you kind of and it's a fantastic song, and it's a group that just do it. I can't remember their name. I'm gonna have to look for it, but it is boss.
Well, I can tell you that the Pelicans, they don't care what the people want because they just took the Hornets playlist for everything. It's been the same songs for, I'm talking 15 years, same sounders, same songs, It's never changed. It's all the same. Sound effects. It's you hear Homer Simpson. Woohoo! I've heard that probably for 20 years.
That was pretty good.
Yeah, that was actually really good.
Yeah,
Maybe you should start doing that more. So you're
The best thing the Pelicans have
I'd
done.
rather do the. Boom, 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 boom.
Wow.
I'd rather do that. That's my
That was good
favorite.
too.
In addition to,
Although I'm pretty sure a
trading
lot of
for-
those sounds are NBA related. I really do believe that. Like there's like because I've heard them.
They
So I'm
have
watching
their own
some.
soundtrack.
No. I think there are certain sounds that are standard throughout the entire NBA because I've heard some of the same things at other NBA games I've watched. So I don't think it's just the Pelicans. But yes, a lot of them have come over. Jeff, I'm sorry.
best thing the Pelicans have done is feature local music at halftime. That's something that
Oh,
they've
it's
done.
not even close.
in
Oh.
the
That
last
has
month.
been tremendous.
It's been a huge,
Yes.
huge hit, and very smart. And I hope it stays that way. I mean, nothing against.
Absolutely.
Trombone
Red
Shorter was
Panda.
fantastic. He was awesome
Well,
on
DJ
Friday.
Jubilee.
DJ
Also,
Jubilee was awesome.
everybody who's there.
Yeah.
You're local. You know the song. So and everybody's getting rowdy. And of course, all I hear on Sports 1280 too is when Josh Ennis has Matt Moscona on, and all they're doing is citing our NOLA.com video of Moscona.
Shout out to
dancing it up.
Christopher Chase Edmonds. Thanks, Brad.
It was totally by random luck that Matt Moscona was caught by NOLA.com's video of dancing to DJ Jubilee, and now it's gone like everywhere.
Really?
Yes.
I didn't know that. I haven't
Yeah.
seen that.
Yes.
It was fantastic, and literally Christopher had no idea who it was, and when he saw me freak out,
He just
'cause I
saw, he just
I
saw a
couldn't believe
middle-aged
it.
guy jamming,
Yeah,
dancing.
dancing to DJ Jubilee with his phone out, getting it like capturing it, and I'm like, oh my god, yes, I cannot wait to put Matt Moscona on blast. We're gonna put this on the main NOLA account. I could not wait.
It helped his rep, man.
Absolutely.
He's got a little
Street cred.
a little
Yeah.
shimmy shake.
But obviously, according to Brett, I mean, clearly DJ Jubilee's performance even did more wonders for our visiting San Francisco friends, as he tweeted out on during the game. I just heard a San Francisco reporter say, "I'm a changed man after seeing halftime show. DJ Jubilee and the Stompers, a surreal combo, or sublime if from NOLA."
Wait, the Stompers?
Yeah, the Stompers was with him too. The Stompers came out.
Wait, the 6'10" Stompers?
Yes.
Are there any others?
Are there? Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, the reason I bring that up is I ran into the 6'10" Stompers in Louisville at the Derby. They performed.
They're like a rebirth brass band.
Yeah.
You could have like 7 or 8 all over America.
Yeah. And then somehow they end up back where you need them to be back in New Orleans.
Right, exactly. Hour number 1 is up. Hour number 2 is on the way. We'll talk a little Saints. Of course, Coby Fleener's released yesterday. What does that mean for the Saints, even though we've seen it coming? And is this the end of the bad free agent signings that the Saints have done? We'll dive into that. Also talk Pelicans Warriors toward the end of the show as well. And your phone calls 504-260-1280 is the number to get involved here. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app. Dunc and Holder. Oh boy.
Julie wants to know if she can come over to film tomorrow at noon.
Yeah, I saw that.
Jeff,
I mean, I guess.
What's up?
you're gonna be. I'm about to say you're gonna be here for the show. Julie's coming at noon.
What? I thought we were going to lunch.
Tomorrow.
Oh, tomorrow.
Tomorrow, yeah, not today. Tomorrow.
Yeah, I'll be here.
Well, we have always.
I know, I'm like, sure those videos do gangbusters. Don't worry, Thursday I get to go have a meeting about my newsletter and then shoot more video with Aaron because they are scrambling to finish their video series and I've got to help them. Like, I've got to be interviewed.
Oh, that thing, that series they sold.
Road to the Pros. I'm like,
That's brutal.
anything else?
The first ever Major League Baseball regular season games in Europe will be played next year, June 29th and 30th, 2019, between the Yankees and Red Sox at London Stadium. That was the site of the
suddenly hungry.
Huh.
Because
I
you know
realize
it's
I got
like,
an hour away.
it's like
I'm not gonna make it.
a stack of fried seafood.
Well, Larry, I'm gonna have to call out Clyde on the air.
Uh-oh.
I got an irate caller from the YouTube audience.
Oh.
Whoa.
I don't know what you. Hey, don't do it. Don't do it. I'm telling you right now. Please don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it.
That
Don't
West
do it.
Bank Rick?
I really, please. I'm begging you.
What's wrong with the feed?
I'm begging you. Please don't do it.
What is
Just
going,
don't do it. Don't do it. Please.
what is going on with the feed? Like, I don't get it.
The problem with the feed is that whatever's going on internally here at the station is the problem because it's not feeding in the audio from the callers, the air, and our microphones.
How long does that happen?
Well, it used to be something that was sparing. Now it's happening every day.
Oh, God. That's not good.
Is it the connection?
All I know is that it's not picking up. I mean, I made sure that was in the middle. No one's touched that.
Okay.
But it's not picking, like, for some reason, like, one day it was put, you know. Because see, right now, like, you can see, like, on the monitor, like, you can hear it right now because it's picking up us, but usually it would be going anyway because it would be getting the audio from the commercials.
Right.
It's not getting the commercials, not getting the sound audio, not getting the callers, not getting anything.
Very interesting. Weird.
Was that comedian that called out Draymond Green from New Orleans?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I've met the guy a few times.
What an
He's
idiot.
friends with Joe Cardosi.
What an idiot.
Yeah, that's why I didn't even bother talking about it. Like, we didn't even talk about it yesterday. No, I've seen him and he, like, his stand-up and he just says crazy things. Like, he thinks the brush of a comedian, you can, like, say whatever you want. I'm like, all right, dude. Well, now he deleted his Twitter and he's, like, gone into hiding.
Yeah, he's being outed as the idiot he is.
Yeah. Josh Ennis talked about it.
Of course.
Yes,
Oh, shocking.
That's, like, right up his alley.
I thought Josh Ennis got suspended.
Oh, he was for, like, 2 days.
Oh, okay.
He did a show here in New Orleans yesterday.
He what?
He did a show here yesterday.
In the
Actually
studio?
met him.
Really?
Him and Jilly. They didn't do it in this studio. They did it like in another one.
Yeah.
Nah.
What time's the game tonight?
9:30.
God, that's brutal.
I know.
Like last night's game started early, like 5:30 or something.
It's because they had both East. What they had both.
Two East Coast teams.
Yeah. Dunc and Holder, hour number 2 on a Tuesday, May 8th. Larry Holder, Clyde Bernan, Dave DeCourbier, and one Jeffrey Duncan, all together again in the iHeart Radio studios here in downtown New Orleans. If you want to get involved in the show, 504-260-1280 is the number. Guest free in hour number 2, but still plenty to talk about. We're going to be talking more Pelicans Warriors toward the end of the show. Going to be switching gears a little bit here at the top of the 11 o'clock hour. Talking a little Saints. Not rookie mini camp, even though that does start up this weekend. I know Jeff is fired up for some rookie mini camp talk. Yeah, buddy. So fired up he'll be in France.
So disappointed that I'm not going to be
So
there.
fired up he'll be in France for it.
Talking about off-season football.
People listen.
Trust
People
me.
want to know.
Trust me, I know.
Without it, I don't have a job, so there we go. How you like
It's
that? I am kind of the Saints and NFL columnist, so what else am I supposed to write about?
No, look, you got to do it. It's an insatiable appetite. But I did notice in Peter King's farewell column, Monday Morning Quarterback, he mentioned that kind of stuff as one of the reasons that he'd gotten tired of it. Just saying that people, manufacturing things in the off season has become part of the job. We all have to do it, but it gets old after a while. I used to always make the analogy with our editors at the Times-Picayune that, our music writers not writing about Jazz Fest in October, but yet we write about Saints season 24/7.
Well, that's the NFL. They
Right.
push it, and it's created except for, say, 5 weeks from mid-June to the end of July, that's the only real total downtime for the NFL, unless you're dealing with, like, franchise tag stuff, which we have in the past with the Saints, with both Drew Brees and Jimmy Graham in the past. But Jeff, you made a funny point, and it is, to me, I quit paying super amounts of attention of so-and-so talked with the Saints, insert rookie name, and you cited a really in-depth story. Was it by Pete Thamel?
Right, yeah,
from
he's got
Yahoo?
a 10-part series, and I'd recommend it to any draftnik out there or someone just fascinated by the NFL draft. Let's face it, that's become the second season for the NFL, and he spent all the way back to last July. I mean, I was with Pete when he came down to the Manning Passing Academy last year in June, and he told me he was getting ready to embark on this series, and he started last July. Basically was embedded with the scouting department throughout the year, and he's basically breaks down an entire NFL draft process from starting right about now on the 2019 draft. It all starts to begin right about now, and so he has a stat in there that I thought was fascinating. He says, I'm reading it right now, over the course of the season, the Dolphins' 10-man college scouting staff will grade 1,504 players, write 3,960 reports, and visit 256 colleges from Ohio State to Tarleton State, Alabama to Dubuque, Iowa. They'll ultimately interview 532 prospects in person at various pro days, the NFL scouting combine, and all-star games. And that was my point is, we write these stories all the time. We're all guilty of it. So-and-so interviews with the Saints as if that's indicative of some type of interest, when here the Dolphins interviewed 532 players.
I'm sure the Saints are just as extensive
Right.
with their interview process, especially knowing Jeff Ireland. He lives and breathes that stuff, so he's wants to know everything and anything about any sort of prospect. But that is funny that because there's just such an insatiable need and a market for wanting to know every in and out, so it gets down to that, even though, as you say, typically teams interview, I'll be generous, I would say at minimum probably 400 players. I'm sure every team is doing the same sort of interview process throughout the offseason. It's just the nature of the NFL.
Yeah, hundreds of players interviewed, and for different reasons. Sometimes it's not just about that prospect. They want to know about that prospect's teammate. There's all kinds of reasons to have an interview. So I think it's somewhat misleading when people think it indicates some kind of interest in the prospect. Sometimes it's nothing more than trying to get dirt or information on a prospect that they're really interested in.
So you mean to tell me that just because the Saints chatted with Lamar Jackson, that means they should have taken him?
There you go. I mean, how big was that when
Lamar Jackson should have been with the Saints. They're trading up to get him. Oh, no, they're not. No. And no one was taking him in the first round until they saw an opportunity to move up, and the Ravens took him at the last pick.
And if you read Peter King's Monday Morning Quarterback about how the Browns got Baker Mayfield, basically they were locked in on Baker Mayfield for weeks before the draft. But yet, there were reports all the way up to the draft saying they were picking between Josh Allen and Sam Darnold, and that was never the case.
Well, it's something that, as someone who's in the media, you, me, look, we are figuring out what's reality and what's BS. And come draft season, I feel like reporters, national insiders, some people just take what's given to them and they just have to report it. They feel like they have to do it to keep the news cycle going, even though they may even know that what they're saying might not be true, but that's what they're being told by people, and it's basically smoke screens and this, that, and the other. And I think at least, Jeff, in the team that we write about all the time and talk about all the time with the Saints, Sean Payton, I'd say in the last several years, has been open and honest. And I feel like it's refreshing. At least when you hear him speak, he's not telling you just something just to be total smokescreen. He's being honest. And I also do think that when you hear him say, all right, needs are X, Y, and Z, you could see on the field needs are X, Y, and Z. I do feel like people are more educated and can sift through, say 2 years ago, or say last year, if you believe in last year, and you say, man, that we really need a number one wide receiver. I don't think people are going to be like, oh, no, they don't believe in Michael Thomas. I mean, he just wouldn't say that. I think he's been more honest. And me personally, and I think even fans have to appreciate that at least refreshing dose of truth in a draft season, where there's so much nonsense being floated out there.
This draft did seem like one where there wasn't a ton of subterfuge for the Saints, because they knew what they were going to do, or try to do at least. And they knew that they had one target for the most part. I mean, I guess they could have possibly gone up for the linebacker he mentioned. Was it Edmonds?
Yes.
They also liked that, which I thought was somewhat interesting. Where would he have played? I guess the weak side spot.
Yes, I would have assumed that. But that's linebacker was a position he said was a need. Even after getting Demario Davis, whatever he said, and then he came out afterward, well, we would have liked possibly going to get Edmonds, but we had a better grade on the pass rusher, and Edmonds dipped down. But what he said was what he meant. I mean, and I could appreciate it. And I feel like even some fans say we're getting through social media, and people say, oh, well, Sean Payton's just saying this. And I feel like you and me wouldn't be saying that we trust Sean Payton if we really didn't trust Sean Payton at his word with a lot of these things. We've even said we're taking Sean Payton's word because we trust what he's saying. And that's rare, honestly, in the day and age we're in right now.
But don't you think that's just been an evolution of Sean,
a
maturation as a head coach?
I do.
Realizing what matters and what doesn't, and some of this stuff. I mean, I'm sure there are a lot of times where they are keeping their cards close to the vest.
They might be coy. They might not, as opposed to maybe a bunch of years ago where they would just come outright and lie to you. I can remember one time, and this was maybe 2007. I think Reggie Bush had been hurt, and Sean Payton just opened up a press conference. Well, I think, out of the blue, first words out of his mouth were Reggie Bush's injury status, that he thought he's going to play this week. And it was a total lie. Outright lie. No plans. He just knew Sean Payton says Reggie Bush is going to play. That's what gets reported. I think he's grown through that. Just feels like you're right. We've talked about this off air, all over the place, where it's not that big of a deal if you put your hand out there and say, all right, this is what we've got, as opposed to just being a total liar and just mischievous.
And I have a way just to maybe spin this back too, but going back to the Browns, doesn't it seem like that's just so Cleveland? Oh, we're going to pick between
screwed up so many times. And what does it matter?
Right. What does it matter? But eventually, if you're a Browns fan, you're hoping that I would imagine that you're hoping that someday the Browns organization will run like a normal NFL franchise will run, and there's no subterfuge, and there's no smoke screens because they haven't gotten it right, and they seem to continue to get it wrong. And I'm not saying that Baker Mayfield was a wrong pick, but I mean, you look at what all the smoke screens they're running for a team that went 0-16 last year, and the last time that they had a quarterback under center that won a game for them was Robert Griffin III. Whereas opposed to the Saints, Sean Payton has no reason to do any of that because he's got the team, and the organization clearly is running better for it because there is nothing to hide.
Well, I would say the same thing in the past when things were going well, and you'd still have some of this. But I do feel like the more comfortable Sean Payton has gotten, kind of just sitting back and saying, you know what, what's the point of just throwing things out there just to throw them out there? I think he's gotten to that point, and I think Saints fans, even though they still question maybe if he's saying telling the truth or not, say during draft season, something like that, that I think they appreciate it more. And I do think that by us covering him for so long, you could tell when he's speaking in genuine terms, or if someone's just being coy. There's not the out and out lying to your face.
Well, what's happened with Peyton is because he used to be so coy and he used to practice all this subterfuge. Now, when he's being honest, people think he's being coy, and
Right.
so it works.
So it's actually smart.
No one knows what to think.
For some people, yes.
Everybody thought he was playing coy with the quarterback thing this year, when actually he was just being honest. But it worked.
But
Anyway,
the whole
it's a
Lamar
smokescreen.
Jackson thing, everywhere. I feel like we were in the extreme minority of saying, hello, the first thing he did to describe Lamar Jackson was to say he had a great smile, and he has his presence in a room. He wasn't talking about how he'd be this great quarterback. And then while we're saying that, everyone thinks, Lamar Jackson, Lamar Jackson, Lamar Jackson.
The Saints are moving up in the draft. Here we go.
And we're saying, no, I was at the table. He was just asked specifically about Lamar Jackson because he did not include him in the top 4 quarterbacks in the previous question. So it was like, oh, what about Lamar Jackson as the 5th quarterback because you didn't mention him? And then later on he goes on and says, well, I don't think I would buy any of these quarterbacks. And people are like, no. You and me and all of us on this show were saying, yes, trust Sean Payton at his word. And of course, came out. So basically I'm just patting us on the back for us knowing who we're talking about and being able to sift through what's real and what's not.
I would like to know who they had graded highest of the quarterbacks. I bet it was Baker Mayfield. I'm betting.
Well,
I'd like to know that.
I would like them to be that way because how many times have I said I think Baker Mayfield is the best quarterback? I've said it for months and months and months. I've never backed away from that, ever. So maybe so. I don't know. But
It'd be interesting to find out.
maybe one day we'll get that.
I think he'd tell us that.
All right. Let's take a break right here on the show. Still talking a little bit of Saints. We'll dive back into Pelicans Warriors toward the end of the show. Still want to dive into the release of Coby Fleener. That happened yesterday. Just where does that rank in the free agency swings and whips? And is this the last, at least as of right now, of the real misses? Because after that, the player acquisitions have been pretty spot on last couple of years, dating back to 2017. So we'll talk about all that coming up next. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app. Duck and Holder.
This is good.
Nothing like molding a segment, spending out 15 minutes of an unplanned segment.
Love it. It's the best, isn't it?
That's how you do it.
It's so good.
But it's when people want to talk like here. So it's like, yeah, let's do it.
Go with
Let's
it.
roll with it. Yeah.
Maybe I'm gonna dominate a po' boy.
I'm gonna dominate a po' boy.
Shrimp, maybe shrimp oyster combo.
Well, time to look up the menu.
Time to look up the menu.
I haven't been to Deanie's in a while. Well, because I feel like anytime you try to go to Deanie's, like out to dinner, I mean, packed.
Yeah, it always is.
Yeah.
Lunch menu, got it right here. Gumbo, sounds good. House salad. Stuffed shrimp, stuffed crab. Po' boy, shrimp, oyster. Soft shell crab po' boy. That's what I had last night at Clancy's.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Little soft shell crab. It's not cheap there, unfortunately.
No.
Oh god. Isn't French Open going on?
Not yet.
Not yet.
What tournament is it?
They're in Madrid, maybe.
Yeah, they are.
Madrid. Yeah. No, they got a couple of like big
Sorry, French Open is like
late May.
late May, right?
Yeah.
Wait,
They
what?
got a
Yeah.
They got a couple of big tune-up events.
Yeah, but they're doing mostly clay court.
Well, it's all
Yeah.
It leads up to it. Yeah. Crawfish duo. Crispy fried crawfish tails and crawfish etouffee served with fries.
So I'm gonna be like over in like literally like a half hour away from Cannes, which is the Cannes Film Festivals.
Oh yeah,
It'll be going on
Just go.
May 8th to 19th. I need to go to that.
nice.
That'd be cool.
So you just go on solo this time. No Bradley.
Well, my friend Sue,
Oh.
Sue and her family's gonna be over there. So,
Oh, okay.
so I'll have people do stuff with me.
Oh, cool.
If I don't kill Sue by the end of the trip.
Uh-oh.
She's
And Brigitte.
she's a little high maintenance.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Really? That's
Yeah.
pot, meat kettle. How are you?
It's not high
Low
maintenance.
maintenance, big dog.
Low
She's-
maintenance.
She's particular is a better word for her. It's not
Particular.
having-
Specific.
Yeah.
The Coby Fleener era in New Orleans has come to an end. Coby Fleener released by the Saints yesterday. Of course, veteran tight end. The prized free agent acquisition of the 2016 offseason. Prized because of how much money they were going to invest in him, even though you knew by seeing a 5-year max out at $36 million, I think everyone realized there's no way he's going to see all that money, and it would be highly unlikely if he finished out the contract. People smartly viewed it as a 2-year deal, and that's what it ended up being, 2-year deal for Coby Fleener. But still, that acquisition and that free agency period, it's not like they had a lot of money to spend. And I wrote about it yesterday on NOLA.com. Basically, they panicked. We've talked about this for years and years, Jeff, whether it's in print or on a podcast or on our show here, Dunc and Holder. They panicked. Ben Watson took basically a larger deal with the Ravens. The Saints did not anticipate it. Ben Watson left. They went out and dumped a bunch of money to Coby Fleener right away. And it seemed just bizarre from the start, and never really, to me, seemed to work out. Even when Coby Fleener was healthy and he played all of the 2016 season, throughout that off season, you never really heard any ringing endorsement from Sean Payton, from Drew Brees. It was always like, he's struggling to find the offense. And I remember, was it 2016 or 2017 training camp? Remember when the Saints, they had their first depth chart and they put Coby Fleener third, and people were saying, oh, I think that's just some misprint or something. And I remember writing a post on NOLA.com about it, And it was, people were saying, oh no, it was misprint. Knowing Sean Payton and knowing the way that they operate, it was a message to Coby Fleener because he wasn't hacking it. And he never really did hack it with the Saints. And it's ironic, Jeff, that Ben Watson played a role in Coby Fleener coming to New Orleans, and he played a role in him getting the boot out of New Orleans.
Well, 2 years, here's the production they got out of Coby Fleener. 8 starts in 2 years, a total of 72 catches and 5 touchdowns. I mean, that's basically, Jimmy Graham would have had that in 1 year. An average of about 12 yards a catch. And the year before they signed him in Indianapolis, he had 54 catches, but his average per catch was only 9.1 yards a catch. So it just makes you wonder why they rushed out to get him. I guess he was the top free agent on the market at the time.
Must have been. I'm trying to remember if there was a better tight end out there. But look, they also, during that same offseason, the Bears tried to pluck away Josh Hill in restricted free agency, and the Saints matched. So they spent significant money, and they retained the Who Man, Michael Ho'omanawanui. They retained him as well. So you have these veteran tight ends, and again, this offseason, Sean Payton, being honest again, made no qualms about saying tight end was a need. He said it before they signed Benjamin Watson back, because he said that at the owners' meeting. Then I think the next day is when Watson signed back with the Saints on a 1-year deal. And then he said it after that. Going into the draft, the tight end was a spot. So I think Coby Fleener knew the writing was on the wall. And people are probably wondering, well, why did they keep him and pay him this roster bonus? I think they did this just as insurance in case, say, Ben Watson did not want to come back to the Saints. And we know that they had major interest in Jimmy Graham. That was an admitted interest. The Saints were probably willing to go about $7.5 million a year. Jimmy ended up getting $10 million a year from Green Bay, so they moved on. And we knew that this was going to happen, and so no major stunner. It's going to be a post-June 1 designation, so they at least get some money back on the cap, Jeff.
And I think in the long run, they will target a tight end in next year's draft or in free agency. I think Watson's probably a stopgap at this point at his age.
He's a 1-year deal. Josh Hill, I'd like to say this is his final year of his deal. I know the Who Man, this is the final year of his deal. So you're certainly looking at something where they're going to have to kind of reboot at tight end at some point. But look, Fleener, you knew that this was coming. Everyone knew. We've talked about it for months and months and months.
And I bet he knew it was coming too. Just he's not dumb. He could see the writing on the wall with the Saints' moves, their actions. I mean, when they were pursuing Jimmy Graham, I mean, these guys have their eyes wide open to that stuff. And I don't think it's a big deal. You know, I know Saints fans tend to focus on what they don't have, like most fans. We got to get a tight end. We got to get a tight end. This team's built around the running backs and Mike Thomas. I mean, they've got some of the best weapons in the NFL. You can't have a Pro Bowler at every position. Nobody does. So, Ben Watson knows the system. He's very reliable. They're not going to feature the tight end. That's not what they do. They don't have a Jimmy Graham. So if they had someone like that, if you and I sat down with Sean Payton, I think it was a couple off seasons ago, and he talked about how he builds his offense each year around the personnel he has at his disposal, and that's what he's going to do this year. He's going to get the ball to Mike Thomas and those 2 running backs. That's how this team's going to play offense, and the tight end will be kind of a second or third option as it was this past year.
And we'll be curious to see about Cameron Meredith, how much he can become a weapon within the offense. Of course, they drafted Traquan Smith and still have Ted Ginn Jr. So if, say, Smith can come in and play right away and Meredith is healthy, you've got 4 viable receivers, and that's something we're going to have to watch as we go forward into training camp. Who are the odd receivers out? They've got a lot of guys, young guys, even Brandon Coleman. They've got a log jam at wide receiver. I'm real curious to see what they're able to do at that position, because Tommy Lee Lewis, who's been around for 2 years, I could say Austin Carr, Traven Doral, a lot of names.
Josh Huff.
Well, I'm not naming Josh Huff, but
Paul Turner.
I'm not naming Paul Turner.
Well, we never really did
Austin Carr.
We never got a chance to talk about your the Seven Saints, your column on the Seven Saints.
Well, I got one right.
Yeah, you got one right. Clearly, I must say you
Coby
pulled
Fleener.
one. You cut him, but we never really did get to talk about your the column on the Seven Saints players who should probably be looking over their shoulders as after the amount of work they've done in free agency and in the draft, are probably on the outside looking in. And I was surprised, not just with Fleener, but like how many wide receivers you had on that list.
It's
I think
just
you
a
named them all.
logjam. You don't know. They've got to prove it, and because you've got young receivers, and you added Meredith, and you added Smith. I mean, look, that's something we're going to dive into certainly in the next couple of weeks. So let's take a break right here on the show. Next segment, let's look at the free agent whiffs. Which one is the worst? Let's say Sean Payton era. Let's not say ever.
There's also a very interesting.
Let's say, keep it to Sean Payton era.
And I've got some names already compiled that I want to bring up. And I also want to bring
tip
up
of the tongue, I'm sure.
a
Me too.
really curious note from Peter King's column. I don't know if y'all talked about it yesterday or not, regarding the Saints and this past draft. I thought it was fascinating.
All right, let's do that. Last segment, we will preview some more Pelicans Warriors. We did that a bunch in hour one. We'll do that in the final segment as well. So come on back. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app. Dunc and Holder. No, I don't know. What was it?
It's going to be good. You're going to love it. It feeds into your column about Rick Leonard. As it being a reach,
Oh Lord.
I'm gonna read to you so you get reaction when it. I want to get live reaction.
Yeah, don't tell
Something
me.
I won't tell you.
Yeah. Well, it's funny how the agent came out on Twitter. Oh, their teams were coming after him. I'm like, shut up.
Yeah, really.
Get out of here. Yeah, they were coming after him. Hey, if you don't get drafted, come sign with us.
That's how they were coming after him.
I'll buy the Anyamata interest from teams. I'm not buying the Rick, Paul, Leonard, whatever you want to call yourself.
Yeah, really.
Whatever I want to call him.
Really.
No, sorry, not good.
Yeah. And, I was with Tim Layden, I was sitting next to Tim Layden the whole time at the Derby.
Mhm.
We always end up, I don't know why, we're always seated in the same cubicles next to each other. And he was all over that Peter King thing. Like, he was like, big news getting ready to come out. I was
Oh.
like, what? He was like, Peter King's going to leave, it's supposed to come out. He was trying to keep it on the down low, but it was all going down. And he said that they're going to take all the money that they were going to pay him and like just hire a bunch of people. He was making
smart.
1.5 million.
Good Lord.
I know.
That's smart. You could probably hire. You're going to pay good money. You can hire probably 8 people.
I know.
Off of that.
Yeah.
And people may be making 130, 140,000
Yeah.
and be perfectly fine.
And
with
be
that.
yeah.
Like, give me a call.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll
pick
go.
Up, it's like pick up the phone. Pick
Yeah.
up the phone.
Yeah.
And he didn't know about Ross Dellinger.
Oh,
So
really?
Thamel and I were telling him about Ross, and he was asking us all kinds of questions about Ross. So
I'm curious to see how he does national.
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
Because you kind of got to
he's gonna have to
work your way.
learn from somebody. Like
Yeah.
somebody's got to connect him to people.
Yeah.
Introduce him to people.
Yeah.
And I'm sure he's gonna be on the road a lot.
Yeah.
He's gonna be traveling to games.
Yeah.
Not gonna just be going to Tiger Stadium every week.
Yeah.
Listen to that bad music. One thing I like is when they play "Talking Out the Side of Your Neck."
Yeah.
I like that.
Oh yeah, of course you like that.
Cameo, baby.
Yeah. Too bad the rest of the administration doesn't like that. Too bad the rest of the administration doesn't.
I love that song. Okay, yeah, I can read this to you.
Coby Fleener released. Certainly someone I know that Saints fans are considering a free agent swing and miss. And I will say 2 words. One is a contraction. You're correct. Total swing and miss.
You're correct.
No question about it. Whiff Central. And we've seen a few of these in the Sean Payton, Mickey Loomis era. And I do feel, though, that they're probably at the end of that right now. Now, will Demario Davis, could he be a whiff? I don't know. I doubt it. But I'm thinking that they've gotten past these mistakes and have kind of righted the ship, and that's why they're in a position they are right now. But Coby Fleener, he's just one of a list of people. And it's funny, I thought of this topic that I wanted to talk about today on the show because Chris Gordy, of course, who's from 2 to 4 right here on Sports 1280, he sent me a Twitter, he added me saying, rank these 4 free agents as in worst to least bust. And the group was Fleener, Jason David, Browner, and Jarris Bird. And my ranking of it, and I did it pretty quickly. I said Bird was first, Jason David second, Browner third, Fleener fourth. What do you think of that list? And there were other misses. I'm just saying those 4, that's how I ranked them.
They didn't pay Browner all that much, did they?
That's why I put him third, and he was only around a year.
Yeah.
Are we going by just on-field production or like a combination of on-field production and money?
Tenure with the team. That's kind of what I did.
Exits, because I mean, Junior Galette, man.
Well, that one, but he wasn't plucked from another team.
Yeah, it's true.
I was
They didn't
doing
pay
plucked
him.
from another
I just like
team.
bringing him up sometimes because I like to see your reaction.
No, well, he's a total loser turd, so that's what he is. There you
I was
go.
hoping for that.
Don't sugarcoat it.
Have I ever with that?
Don't hold
Now,
back.
What
No.
about? I'll pull a name from the past. We're talking about worst free agent signings.
Okay.
Albert Connell.
I mean, that one was bad for sure.
I mean, he was stealing from teammates.
Literally.
Literally, no.
Literally.
I know.
I mean, not only did he not produce on the field, he was a locker room nightmare.
Dale Carter's probably one.
Yes,
you
Dale
can throw
Carter.
into there. But I was saying, because there are probably so many before that, but I was just going to keep it in the Peyton Loomis era because, okay, so of those 4, well, who's your worst?
Well, Jarris Bird is the worst in that period.
From 2006 to now, which one's the worst? Worst free agent outside of the team. Let's not talk Junior Galette because I think
It's got to be Jarris Bird.
I think it's Jarris Bird.
I mean, Jason David was bad, but they didn't invest as much. I mean, Bird was supposed to be they were one player away from the Super Bowl, and he was a disaster.
$9
in every
million a
way.
year on average, and you had to keep him around for at least 3 years.
And you let Malcolm Jenkins go to bring him in, who's a Pro Bowler.
Right.
So I mean, that was
And a Super Bowl champion again.
and a great guy, and a great locker room presence. I mean, and Jarris Bird was not a bad guy. I mean, he wasn't as you call it, a turd.
He was not.
No, he was not a turd. He just wasn't.
And then he got hurt. Once he got hurt, it was over.
It was over. I mean, yeah, that's the worst in the Peyton era. I don't think there's any doubt about it. You remember Brady Jackson? That was an interesting one. He was part of the heavy lunch bunch, I think, for a while.
The old Hazlitt era.
Yeah, that was one that didn't work out. Now, the older than that, Michael Haynes was a big investment for the team. He never really panned out. And they got him from Atlanta, I believe. And Eric Allen was at the end of his. He was one of those classic end of the career, not good anymore.
Champ Bailey.
Olin Kreutz, James Laurinaitis,
Olin Kreutz. Yeah, that one was.
Dan Morgan.
I've got a couple, and I'm not going to steal these because, I mean, I'm not going to take credit for it. The only one I would have had specifically would have been Jason David because I can see him getting burned in my nightmares sometimes. But this is from,
he gets burned. And also, you paid him good money because you plucked him as a restricted free agent. You had to give up a 4th-round pick for him as well. And Peyton Manning laughed all the way to the bank when he torched him the first game, and it just never should have been that way.
Yeah.
This is from obviously our good friend and colleague Jim Rapier. Such names as Jeff's named a couple of these, so I'm gonna name the ones that he didn't name. Randall Hill,
Okay.
Brian Cox,
Brian Cox. Yeah, that was Ditka era.
and then one that even I totally forgot about, Kevin Casefahan.
Oh, he wasn't that. They didn't spend that much money on him. I mean, look, he picked off 2 passes against the Saints the year before, so the Saints said they needed to have him.
Clearly,
That's what happened.
but
That's
other
a great one, though.
He
It's a
started.
Yeah.
in the,
good one.
he started in the XFL, and then he went to the Bengals, and then he came to the Saints. And no,
What about Tootie Robbins? Old school there. He was not very good.
No.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Heath Schuler
That was bad.
Yeah.
was pretty bad. He was supposed to be the savior quarterback. Didn't happen. I think Brandon Browner was bad just from an image standpoint because he was so bad. He had so many penalties, and then he was a turd. in a lot
Well,
of
he was a turd before he got to the Saints, so that was what you were dealing with. And he came at a bargain at 3 years, $5 million on average per year. And then when he left, he basically said, "Oh, I'm running away with your money."
Well, here's one that would get your all's thoughts on. How would you grade Darren Sharper?
Oh, you had to go there.
Oh.
Wow.
I mean, he basically helped them win the Super Bowl. I mean,
Yeah.
there's no doubt. He had a monster.
I mean, he had a great season.
He
had a
led
monster
the league in
season.
He had a
interceptions.
great
he
season.
had a monster season, and then he became a monster. So
Yeah.
there you go.
Literally.
I mean, serious. But the fact that he was on the team, you have to acknowledge that he was on the team, and he certainly created a game-changing turnover threat in the secondary.
Yeah.
And people thought he was on the backside of his career, which he really was, but he found lightning in a bottle one
Yeah.
year.
It almost seemed like
you have to acknowledge him. Unfortunately,
it almost seemed like that one worked out so well that the Saints got caught up in it
Yeah.
Sure.
and
Yeah.
started thinking they could resurrect more careers, and they went down that path of bringing in those kind of guys, the Laurinaitis, Dan Morgans, Brandon Browners, and
Champ Bailey.
none of them, Adrian Peterson, none of them really worked out.
Adrian Peterson, huh?
Sorry to bring that one up. We didn't.
Why?
we lost
Why?
on that.
We knew we already had him in our brains. You didn't have to say it.
F. Adrian's getting
Getting
an
an
F.
Got another suggestion here from a fan, Sean Rogers.
I don't think he was that bad. He came in and he was a big boy.
He was a big guy.
He's a big boy.
He's one of the biggest human beings
He
I've
was-
ever seen.
He was a big boy. I don't think he was that bad. I don't think the expectations were super high. I don't think they paid him a ton. Now, here's the thing. What do you gauge on Nick Fairley? Do you think that is something that the Saints should be, I guess, I don't want to say ripped, but saying that was a whiff? Do you think that big signing, should they be at fault for that?
I think you have to say yes.
I think you have to.
I mean, it's such an obscure thing, though. It's not like it was an injury. I mean, these heart
Yeah.
conditions like that, I kind of give them a little more of a pass on it.
Yeah, it's a little harsh.
Yeah.
Feels harsh.
But I still think there's uncertainty that are we ever going to know really the truth that say if the Saints just missed it or just discarded it when they signed it?
does it matter?
Well, sure. If the Saints missed it, it's just another knock on the medical staff if they actually did a scan or did it come up
But-
after they signed him?
Yeah.
I've never gotten a clear
We
answer.
never
on
got a
that.
clear answer on that. I think it's
Probably
similar,
by design.
it's similar to the Delvin Bro thing. Very similar in that they looked at a test, made a wrong or overlooked what it really was. But talking to medical people, they say the Bro situation is very common. Those tests and scans are hard to read on something like that. Clearly, Sean Payton didn't buy that. But I'm thinking this heart condition thing. They weren't the only team, right? I mean, there were other teams back in the day that looked at him and determined that he could play.
Right.
The Detroit Lions being one of them.
Right. And then a year before, you'd have to say signing Nick Fairley was a smart move because he came in, played well, proved a deal. You would have said the same thing about Alex Okafor had he not gotten injured, and if he can recover, it means you're going to be. But that's the thing. I feel like that the Saints, at least, they did a lot of right, even though you could say, well, they missed on Fairley. They did a lot of right in their free agent acquisitions since, say, Fleener.
I would say this, though. The Saints are not afraid to take injury risks, either coming out of college, like Alex Anzalone, or in the NFL. I mean, Alex Okafor had a number of injuries in Arizona, and when you do that, you're gonna have issues like him getting hurt again. I mean, certain players just always are hurt. I was amazed reading about Jason Witten, who retired recently. He missed one game in his entire career at tight end. That's an amazing statistic.
Well, we could always talk Cam Jordan. I mean, he's been an iron man.
Exactly. Certain players are always reliable and dependable, and there's certain ones that always hurt.
All right, let's take a final break right here on the show. When we get back, I know we got Jason and Metairie. We'll get to your phone call as soon as we get back, and then we will make our final preview of the final Pelicans game of the season. Is it going to be that way? Yes.
I've also got my teas.
No teas. Oh yes. I need to hear
We'll
your
come back
teas
when
as
we
well.
come back.
Absolutely. All right. Come on back. One more segment. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app. Dunc and Holder. Who's Michelle Tuggle?
What's that, bud?
Who's Michelle Tuggle? I don't know who she is.
I don't know who it is either. I've never heard.
Yeah, so I just texted with Ed Biggs.
Cool.
He is leaving Biloxi now.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, so
Biloxi?
Biloxi.
I thought
So,
it lived here.
Yeah,
Cool.
we have lots of fans all across the Gulf Coast.
All right, so we're just gonna meet him out there.
Should have had like
Yeah.
David Vegas.
Yeah, huh?
We'll fly you in.
fly
Yeah,
in,
yeah,
On the Dunc and Holder chopper.
yeah.
As in
Chopper.
like the Inspector Gadget umbrella.
All right, so he has $100 gift cards I was sending him. We only have $100 for us, so we gotta kind of watch what we eat.
Yeah, I'll have to.
That's
I-
fine.
Yeah, that's
funny, right?
Yeah, I know, but I just
So what time-
I haven't been to Dini's in forever, so I don't know how much the goddamn seafood.
Whatever it
products
is.
I saw
I'll-
like
I'll
the
probably
po' boys
just-
like
yeah.
$18 or something.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, I mean, I'll freaking.
Yeah, we'll pay the
put my
difference.
damn company card up.
Yeah.
are.
Yeah.
we'll
Which
pay
I have no
for it.
problem with because I don't
I
have
did-
one of those.
Matt, I did not.
Well, actually,
I did not want to speak for you
Actually,
or on
the
your
senior,
behalf.
according to our bylaws, the senior member of the table is supposed to pick up the tab.
Ah!
Well, but see, we could probably convince Ed to
Senior
take
as
care
an
of us too.
employment status.
They're like, hey, Ed, we forgot our wallets, dude. Hook us up.
Yeah. So, Don and Dash are leaving all on him.
Nice lunch, Ed.
That's the Dunc and Holder way.
Yeah. Dine and Dash.
That's right. Don and Dash, baby. So who is it? Jason and Metairie? Okay, cool.
Rubber duck derby. Yeah, I gotta get some food in Memdine. Michelle Tuggle, is that a new human being?
I don't know, but I clicked on the thing and it said it disappeared. Ha!
Really?
One more segment here. Hit the phone lines real quick. One final caller of the day, 504-260-1280. Let's head over to Metairie, talk with Jason. Hey, Jason, thanks for calling Dunc and Holder. What you got?
Oh, yeah. That's a good one.
How am I drawing a
Anthony
blank?
Spencer?
No, it wasn't him. It was
It was
a
somebody like that.
linebacker.
Yeah, that's right. That's a great one.
Linebacker. He tore his ACL in minicamp. Oh my gosh, I'm drawing a blank.
That's driving
But
me
that is a
berserk.
good one. They didn't pay him big money, but yeah, there were a lot of major expectations. I gotta look this up, but yeah,
Yeah, that
that's
was
a good one. I know. Oh, how am I?
Because Rob Ryan was talking about him like he
Oh,
was
man.
Lawrence Taylor. Remember?
All right, yeah,
thanks.
good,
We'll
good thought.
figure it out.
All right, Jeff,
Oh, yes, my
give me
teas.
my teas, and then I've got to look this up.
Yeah, look it up while I'm reading
Yes.
this. So, from Peter King's Monday Morning Quarterback, there was an interesting Saints nugget from this past draft, and he talked about Kentavious Street, who was the NC State defensive end, who at one time I actually had mocked to the Saints, and then he tore his ACL during the draft process, like leading up to it, in a workout for the Giants, I guess about a month ago. And Peter says the Falcons, Saints, and 49ers were all interested in him, all liked him a lot. His college defensive line coach until last season was Ryan Nielsen, the Saints defensive line coach at this time, and he told the Saints that ACL or not, Street would be a great pro player. In the fourth round, Atlanta had picked 126, the Saints had 127, and the 49ers had 128. All three teams considered Street at that point. Atlanta took running back Ito Smith. The Saints considered Street and took tackle Rick Leonard instead. And then the Niners took Street right after Rick Leonard was taken. I'm sure that's going to make Saints fans very happy.
If Street goes through with this, yeah. If he has a great career, yeah, I'm sure they'll be fired up. But yes, our own Dave, you. All right, give the call up credit, but you can announce it. Who is that player? Oh
Yes.
my goodness, I was all over
Victor
Victor Butler watch when he was about to sign and this, that, the other, and yeah, I was. I remember talking to his agent for like a month and a half, 2 months plural, because they were trying to get that done. Yeah, he was going to start, and then he tore his ACL. I remember Sean Payton saying that Mark Ingram and Victor Butler knocked knees, and Victor would be okay, and then, oh no, never mind, torn ACL.
Actually, he's not okay.
Yeah, actually, he's out for the year, and never played a down for the Saints. Never played a down.
That's a good one.
That was
a good one, Jason.
Yeah, good thinking. Yes, absolutely, Jason. No matter.
I love those like obscure guys that come in. They have a bunch of them, and when you can remember them, I remember Derek Rogers came in for a couple of years in the Hazlitt era. He was a big name linebacker with the Dolphins. He was actually from New Orleans, but he never really panned out. And my favorite one was Dan Morgan, because I distinctly remember everyone was fired up about Dan Morgan, and he never played it down.
He never played again because he had the concussion issues. He practiced, but yeah, actually he just got hired, I think, by someone to be high in the player personnel department. I'm not sure.
Interesting.
Got to Google it. Who knows? All right. Final segment here. Let's spin it back to Pelicans Warriors, and I've not been shy about what I'm thinking is going to happen tonight, but maybe I would be pleasantly surprised. Jeff, what do you feel like the Pelicans need to do to surprise the hell out of me and get Game 5 and come back and have a Game 6 here in Smoothie King Center?
Well, this is going to sound very, very basic, but they've got to have a strong start, show confidence early, and try and take that crowd out of it. That's an incredible home court advantage they have there. And I think if they could somehow put the Warriors back on their heels a little bit, that's going to be difficult. It will give them confidence that they could be in this thing to the end. I think your point about it, the Pels have to be in this thing in the fourth quarter. I mean, they're not going to rally from 12 or 15 down, I think, against this team. If it's a, nip and tuck back and forth affair, I think the pressure will flip to the Warriors the longer the Pels hang around. So they've got to somehow limit Kevin Durant. I just don't know how they're going to do it. I don't see a matchup that allows it. They might just have to hope he has an off night. It happens.
And it's happened this series for him, but as you've seen, it's just an off night. It's not an off 4 or 5 games in a row. That doesn't happen. And look, turnovers are key. You can't have even in, say, Game 2 when you thought they were in the mix. The turnovers really bit them. You could blame the officiating, but Clyde didn't have 19 turnovers in Game 2.
19 turnovers.
Can't have that.
21 points off of that.
Exactly. So you got to take care of the basketball and hope Kevin Durant has a bad night. I don't want to be just so trivial about it, but I really I don't have a lot of confidence in the Pelicans tonight. They could come out and play great, and I just feel like the Warriors could come out and play greater.
Lost 14 of the last 15 in Oracle. I mean, that's a pretty staggering number. It's hard. Deep down inside, I think it's hard for them to have confidence, even though I'm sure they're saying it. If things start going awry for them, I think it's going to be hard for them to maintain that confidence.
Just don't lose by 50 like the Hornets did a bunch of years ago when Denver just blew them out the building and they lost by, 50, 60 in that playoff game. How about we just not have that?
That'd be
That'd
ideal. That'd be ideal.
Ideal.
Look, at the end of the day, the one thing that you can control for me is being aggressive defensively. I think if you're aggressive defensively, I think if you really make life hard for Kevin Durant specifically, and I think if you can continue to hold down Draymond Green and Klay Thompson, I think you give yourself a really good shot. Like I said, Steph Curry, and I think Jeff made a good point yesterday. I don't think Steph Curry is 100%. And I think that's kind of hampered him, but he's been able to fly under the radar. Again, those 23 points that he got in Game 4 on Sunday was, most of them came in the fourth quarter in garbage time. The game was already well over by that point. But be aggressive defensively, and then I think, and obviously you can't shoot 36% in a playoff game. You can't do that. That's atrocious. You can't have that. But
at home, you're
at
missing
home.
layups. You're missing everything.
Every point
threes,
matters.
You're missing everything.
Every point matters. Every bunny matters. You got to take your chances when you have them, and you can't miss easy buckets. I don't think this game is as dire in terms of how the Pelicans have to view it, but it's the Warriors. So either you're going to play
It is
perfect.
dire.
If you're either going to
You
play,
lose and it's over.
But you're either going to play perfect and you have yourself a chance, or you're going to play normal and well, it's going to end pretty quickly.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how they respond. But yeah, I do think that all in all, and I'm sure we're going to reflect on this once the season ends. Regardless of what happens tonight, the fact that they even got this far is certainly something to feel real good about. If you're the Pelicans organization, feel real good about if you're a fan of basketball here in New Orleans. And I think going forward, you certainly have some good things to feel good about. And it won't be just this big surprise. The expectation level is going to jump now. And that's a good thing. I think that's a good thing for the Pelicans organization.
Yeah. And you know who's a joke? Toronto Raptors. They're a joke.
Well, I know that.
That's an absolute
I've never not thought
poorest performance by a number one
He's just
seed.
like, guess what? I'm coming out and just nuking
I don't even.
Toronto
I
at the
just
end of the
yeah. The 6 more like should have been out of the playoffs. You didn't deserve the 1 seed. That was absolutely just an abysmal 4-game performance. I don't care if LeBron James is the greatest player on the planet right now. If you don't have any heart as the number 1 seed to defend your own court and not get swept like you did last night, that's a joke.
Man, look at Clyde. What my final word.
Hey, my Pelicans column up on NOLA.com, basically, this is the season of redemption for Dell Demps.
Redemption.
Yes.
Certainly go check it out. We will talk more about it. If the season ends tomorrow, we will certainly look back and see some of the bad moves, some of the good moves. Obviously, they've made some good moves to get to the point where they are. I want to thank Will Guillory for jumping on the show from Oakland. Follow all of his coverage. Him, Chris Dave are out in Oakland tonight. So follow all their coverage. And, of course, we'll be back here tomorrow to recap the game, maybe the season. Eric Asher coming up next. So come on back. See y'all tomorrow. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app. Duncan Holder.
Poor boy time.